Hildebrandt, co-conspirator in the torture of biological children with Ruby Frankie. Ruby Frankie and Miss Hildebrandt are currently incarcerated. And he's suing her for emotional distress. As I just did a live stream, gave you a little synopsis of what's going on at the end of that live. Please tune into the last live pertaining to NBA YoungBoy and TikTok. The ban for TikTok in the United States. It has passed to the House of Representatives. Next, it needs a vote from the Senate, and then there will be no more TikTok in the United States. Please check out that last live. This is live number 2. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to try to be brief with my commentary because I'm tired of talking about Ruby Frankie and her nonsense. Certain topics I don't like to just continue to talk about, and this is one of those topics, just because of the abuse done to the children and the replaying, of the child going to the door. I don't want to keep talking about that, looking at that, and the girl child being in the closet. That's just very disturbing to me. So I want to get on with this content. Second part of this live will be pertaining to the Oklahoma Misfits. It is believed during an affidavit, testimony, conversations, Miss Tiffany, the biological grandmother of the said children, basically told law officials that the judge was the next target. We're going to discuss that. News Nation will be the source of that information. Thank you so much for joining me. This is live number 2, two-part topic. Kevin, Frankie, and the Oklahoma Misfits. Thank you for joining me. KSL is Source News Radio 102.7 FM. This is content from earlier in the month. The husband of former YouTuber and convicted abuser Ruby Frankie has filed a lawsuit against his wife's former business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt. Kevin Frankie is seeking damages for extreme emotional distress. Frankie and Hildebrandt were sentenced to prison in February for abusing Frankie's children. In the lawsuit, Kevin Frankie said Hildebrandt's actions completely damaged his family and marriage. Kevin outlined some of the conditions his 2 youngest children were living in at Hildebrandt's southern Utah home. He said the kids were forced outside for long periods of time in the summer heat. He said that during that time, they were not given food or water. Frankie said that the punishment was so harsh and abusive, both mentally and physically, that the children felt they weren't worthy of receiving help when first responders found them emaciated. In the lawsuit, Kevin Frankie also said that he was unable to help his children emotionally. Frankie is asking for punitive damage that will be determined in a trial. He filed for divorce from Ruby Frankie in 2023. That is the content. KSL is the source. Let me say this. You don't deserve a damn dime. The fuck's wrong with you? You willingly left your family. As I said in the last live stream, and as I have said in content pertaining to Ruby Frankie and this debacle with her, Jodi, and this husband. It was your choice to leave the house. You had no business leaving the house. You are part of the abuse as well, because people who were watching YouTube years ago filed a complaint against you and your wife to CPS. Nothing was found at the time. Now we fast forward to years later. Last summer, a child escapes Jodi's house. The rest is history. Why should anybody give you money? You don't even have custody of the children. As I said before, I believe this is all because you are entitled to pay the state money because they're in your care. A lot of states make parents pay them money while their children are in the state's care. It is said your children are in the state's care, so therefore you will be liable to pay the state money. You also be liable probably for their mental care. Maybe the state wants you to pay for that. I believe they do. This is your attempt to get money from Jodi Hildebrandt's estate. I know what this is about. Emotional distress. You weren't even with the children, so how you get emotional distress for what? We hear that your oldest son is living with you, but he is not one of the children that's alleged in the affidavit and abuse charges. So therefore, why would the state or whomever the money for emotional distress and emotional abuse done to the children? You have no right to any money because, one, you were not there when the children were abused by Joe and Ruby. That's number one. I do believe you played a role with Ruby when you were married and living in the house with her. Maybe not to this extreme. I don't know. You would never tell the truth anyway. You were gone a whole year. So how do you feel like you're entitled to sue Jodi's estate for emotional distress when you were gone a whole year? So your children could have been in Alaska, New York, living on a farm, living in a barn. You wouldn't have known because you decided to not go back to the house to check on your children, call your children, visit your children, possibly pay monetary money to her, pay the mortgage, but you listened to what she and Jodi had to say about you being involved in the family day-to-day business, which made no sense to me, how a grown-ass man would stay away from his wife and children on advice from another woman. Please explain to me. You saw your wife changing right before your very eyes when she met Jodi, and you didn't do a damn thing about it. Because if worse came to worse, and she said to you, when this transpired about asking Jodi to live with you, you should have put your foot down and said, this is my house, and I don't want another woman, man, cat, dog, monkey in my house. But you did not. You foolishly left on the guise of this BS she gave you. So that is on you, sir. So you suing her for emotional distress when you left and you didn't know what was going on with your children or your wife. Your wife could have been sleeping with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I do believe she had a sexual relationship with Jodi. That's what this really was about. So all this BS with the Latter-day Saint, zombie demons and all this, people don't know the kids. Jodi talking about people know the truth. We do know the truth. You abused the children. You abused children that weren't yours. You have been accused of abusing your own relatives. So, also abuse of people in your own medical profession as a therapist. So you got a lot of folks talking bad about you, Jodi. And you as well, Ruby. People who watched the YouTube channel when you had a channel, which is no longer. Everybody's passing the buck to somebody else. Ruby's blaming Jodi. Jodi blaming the children, but she can't blame who? Ruby. And now we got Kevin blaming Jodi. But you ain't blaming your wife? Help me understand. And we already know you're going to get whatever she had in the bank account because you're still married to her. So, okay, now let her go sue Jodi. She's got a little more money. She had this channel and business and so on. Probably had investments. How do you know her estate hasn't been given to her children or late husband or mama or sister, brother, cousin, somebody? I can't see nobody giving you no money. And if a judge gives you some money off of Jodi's estate, the judge is stupid. I wouldn't give you one damn dime. Because it was your choice to walk out of the house. There's no such thing as somebody forced you out. You're a grown man. You are a man with a penis and testicles. So you should stand up for yourself. If you can't stand up for nobody else, you stand up for yourself. And I can't see how a man would let another woman talk him out of there. Out of his own home. This is BS. You don't deserve a dime. Because it was your choice to leave. So whether it was a man, a woman, it doesn't matter. You left. You chose to walk out of your house. You abandoned your children. You didn't visit your kids, didn't call your kids. So anybody out here that want to ride this donkey ride with Kevin Frankie, your ass is crazy too. Because it was his own choice. It doesn't matter that somebody came to him and said, I think you two need to separate. You need to move out the house. You need to get a house, apartment, condo, trailer, whatever. You didn't have to leave. You pay the mortgage, that's your house. Your name is on the deed. How you gonna let another woman tell you to get out your damn house? And now you want to sue her for a decision that you made and that your wife was on board. Now your wife want to play crazy like, yeah, I was wrong. She coerced me. I was listening to what she had to say. She had complaints against her for child abuse before Jodi Hildebrandt ever came into the picture. We now have the sisters talking about they called the police, CPS on the abuse. She didn't specify what the abuse was, but she didn't like the fact that she was coming around talking about connections, this and that. They wanted to tell her, but they didn't, blah, 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 blah. Now look at the end result. And that's when you can't make somebody do what you think they should do. You can't make somebody act the way you think they should act. So even with calling CPS, this and that, if they complain to her, she still would have stayed away from them, did her own thing. We'd still be right where we are today. 2 children abused and in the state's care. End of story. Son now living with Kevin, the older son. Same one sleeping on a beanbag. When Kevin was married to Ruby, say, well, so how's that going to work? I don't believe he should be staying with the father. I think he should be on his own or living with somebody else. He has not done a formal interview with how his mother treated him, what he thought about what happened during court. He also says it was strange. Her apology to everybody, law enforcement, EMTs, the judge, so on and so forth. So I'm on the fence about that. You thought that was strange, the apology, but you believe her apology was sincere. How do you come to that conclusion, young man? But he probably is delusional because he probably has a lot of mixed emotions pertaining to not being able to be there for his brother and sister being abused by his mother. But I believe he has seen the signs of his mother and father abuse those children mentally, physically. Maybe not to the extent of how the 2 younger children were treated down there in southern Utah. But the point is, I think he knows more. He may not want to say. Maybe he wants to make amends with his father and build a relationship, but I wouldn't trust Kevin Frankie because my thing is this: if you left me once, you'll leave me twice. And I think everything that Kevin Frankie is doing is orchestrated, and it's about the money. He feels like a fool. He feels like he has been emasculated by these two women, and he wants payback. But payback is not going to get you a respect with your children, and it's not going to undo what you allowed to have done, what was done to your kids. When you walked out the door, sir, you allowed this woman, Jodi, and your wife to abuse these kids. And God knows what else they were doing. That was your choice. You have nobody to blame but yourself. So once again, the older son is living with him, Mr. Frankie. The older child has been speaking out on social media, video game, venting about his life. Does believe the mother's apology was sincere in court, but still finds it strange her making an apology. Sounded like she's at the Oscars. He says, sister's now saying that they called CPS, DHS, so on and so forth. Nothing was done. They wanted to tell her about her connections rhetoric, but decided not to, but was going to tell her the next time they saw her. Blah, 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 blah. We don't want to hear it. Never did. And obviously she removed herself from her family. So they saw her going down into the abyss. But as I said, you can't make somebody visit you. You can't make somebody bring the children around. You can't make somebody, open the door to you to come to your house, their house, blah, 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 blah. As I told you, I'm tired of talking about Ruby Frankie because this is all bullshit and nonsense. As I said before, it's what you tolerate dealing with people. And we have all done it. Tolerated crazy nonsense. May not be to the extent of abuse, sexual assault, child pedophilia, on and on, murder. But you have tolerated people who were disruptive, mean-spirited, rude, nasty, and you kept dealing with them. This is no different. When you saw the signs that something was wrong in your marriage, you bailed out. And now you want compensation for bailing out. And I've never heard of such. But there's always people on the hustle. Your wife was a hustler when she was on YouTube. You were a hustler when you were married to her. And now you're still hustling. You're trying to hustle the system to give you money and you walked out on your children. That's ridiculous. And it's disrespectful to your kids. Because that's what you send in a message to them. Yeah, I failed you. I walked out. Now I want money for leaving you. So who has the emotional distress in this case, sir? Because your children were the ones abused. You weren't. And at any time you could have walked, knocked on the door, put the key in your door to your house. So what you trying to tell me? You gave your key to your wife? Okay, I'll let you give it back to me when you're ready. Huh? And I know you was paying a mortgage because I refuse to believe her YouTube money was paying a mortgage. Help me understand, Mr. Kevin Frankie. Really, I don't really give a fuck because I know this is bullshit. You are like everybody else. You are on the take. And you are using your children's abuse to make money, to get money from Jodi Hildebrandt. Do I care about what happens to Jodi Hildebrandt's bank account, estate? Of course not. Because she's rank and she's foul. So whatever happens to her, I could care less. But you don't have a right to get any money off the abuse of your children. Because one, you do not have custody of your children. They're in the state's care. Number two, you left your children before they became severely abused by Ruby and Jodi Hildebrandt, to our knowledge. So how are you entitled to compensation when you walked out and you chose to walk out before it ever got to this state with the children? The children could have died. Trust me, you would have never known where they were because they would have buried those children. I do believe that. And I do not believe that Jodi has remorse, and I do not believe Ruby Frankie has remorse. She only said what she needed to say to make it look good for her in court. She still puts all the blame on Jodi Hildebrandt. So see, both of you are doing the same thing. They outed you, you blaming Jodi, and she blamed Jodi. And you now want money when you allowed this bullshit to go on and allowed in your house with your wife and kids. And then they decided to put your ass totally out and you agreed to it. And now that your children have been abused, in the state's care, wife in jail, girlfriend in jail, now you want money. Hell no. You don't deserve a red damn dime. And if the state wants to milk you for every fucking penny that they can for keeping your children, you should be paying. And number two, if they need medical expenses paid by you, they should charge you. You owe your children that. If nothing else, you owe those children. That's my commentary pertaining to that BS out of Utah, Idaho, wherever the hell they are. Next up, Oklahoma Misfits, thank you for joining me, everybody. We'd like to donate to this great network. $sign McGanty, 129 Cash App stickers, a chance to welcome to the live stream. This is number 2. Thank you for joining me. All right. Affidavit says that the Oklahoma Misfits were going to target the judge in the case of the children. So what happened to the plot to harm the judge? Because it did not happen. So were they just talking? They didn't get time because they got arrested, or they changed their minds? Please take the poll on my community page pertaining to that information. I do have the poll up, and I will read the results after I play this audio by News Nation. Thank you for joining me, everybody. This is live number 2. Thank you. Wow, wow, wow. So I kept saying, how far are they going to take it? I didn't see them doing anything to anybody in Kansas because I thought people can talk, but maybe they will hurt somebody in Kansas as well if they spoke out against them. I just figure you can't off everybody because they give an opinion, whether it was Kansas or Oklahoma. But as these people are sick, I guess if anybody had spoke out about the custody, maybe they would have traveled and tried to unalive them. Who's to say? Thank you for joining me.
Butler and Jodi and Kelly. According to new court documents, one of the 4 suspects in custody, Grandma Tiffany, she's the grandma of the kids, she's in a bitter custody dispute. We've talked about it. Well, she gave a recorded statement to investigators after her arrest saying she was responsible for the murders. Talk about a bombshell. Prosecutors also say that court docs show Grandma Tiffany and her co-conspirators had their eye on the judge as their next target. Here to help us break it all down, what this could mean for the suspects, we've got former FBI agent and News Nation Online Justice contributor, my friend Jennifer Coffendoffer, and back with me again, attorney Misty Mara. Sorry. Thank you both for being here. Jennifer, first of all, by the way, I found out over the weekend, actually from this part of the country, so she has a very, very intimate knowledge of this area. What did you make, Jennifer, of Grandma Tiffany's confession? Did you see that coming?
I kind of did, and let me tell you why I say this. Usually the people that seem just the most evil and the people that are in charge of kind of putting the whole scheme together, they're often the ones that actually go ahead and confess. Why? I think it's because they know this day is coming. Listen, she seems pretty dumb in how this was all planned out and all the clues that were left that led to her. But Brian, she knew she was going to get caught, and I think she knew that when she got caught, she was going to confess.
I want to read you, Misty,
Did she know?
Of this new court document where it basically talks about the confession. It says that she did provide a recorded statement to law enforcement indicating her responsibility for the death of the deceased. So indicating her responsibility for the death of the deceased. I had to read that like 3 times this weekend. I mean, should we get into that, Misty? Like, they didn't just say she confessed. Like, what exactly, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, it seems to say that she took responsibility. Now, without the details, we don't know exactly what she said in that confession. But there's a couple of things in the document that I think are worth pointing out. Number one, they said that she confessed in a recorded custodial interview. That means she was in custody at the time. So is this the first step in what we see in these cases where there's co-conspirators turning on each other? She's the one who's going to confess, maybe in exchange for some form of leniency down the line. Or when her defense attorney is assigned to this case, do they start to challenge whether or not that confession will ever hear the light of day in a courtroom and say that perhaps there were rights that were violated or that it's not admissible ultimately in court? That happens all the time. So I think before we know exactly what the meat is, it's hard to say what's in that reported statement and what the impact is going to be as the case proceeds.
And every time I see these pictures of Grandma Tiffany, I think back to just seeing her in court last week. I was in Oklahoma. I was sitting like 4 feet from the woman because it's such a small courtroom. And she looks so much different now. I mean, these are really flattering photos. She's much, much more hardened. Jennifer, what did you make of the fact that she apparently said she knew the way the judge walked home? I mean, what does that mean?
Certainly very concerning, because it makes it clear, really, that they had an alternative plan. If this plan didn't go forth, I think the judge could have been next on that hit list.
So, Misty, back to the confession. Grandma Tiffany has technically pled not guilty at this point, but now we learn about this confession on a recorded, interview with police. Why plead not guilty and then at the same time be confessing? How does that make sense?
Well, she pled not guilty. She probably hasn't had time to really get down with her lawyer and talk about what the next steps and implications of that confession are. As I said, the confession is going to be reviewed by the attorney, and there'll be a game plan developed, whether or not they're going to try and challenge it or whether or not they're going to use it as some sort of leverage to gain some favor with prosecutors. So it's really a little bit too soon to tell exactly what that means as far as how it's going to impact everything else. But there's one thing I do know, Brian. Whenever there's co-conspirators, at some point, usually they turn on each other. So is she the one to turn? I did not see that coming. I actually love Jennifer's perspective. I always thought it would be someone who had a less direct motive in this case, who might come forward.
Or the boyfriend. Or all three.
Group, but seems like she's the first one to tell the story.
What do you think, Jennifer? I mean, do you think she could be turning on the others? How do you think that'll play? I mean, Tad is, of course, her boyfriend, but could she, be looking out for herself at this point?
Well, what I think, Brian, is based on how well planned out this was, the cell phones and all of the deliberate planning and how they were able to plan this out. She planned this part also, this confession. And I agree with Misty, it's for a reason. We're going to find it out. I like the idea of possibly trying to gain favor. The problem is, though, she's the head.
Exactly.
She's the head of the snake.
Head of the
she's
snake.
The reason this
Love
all
that.
happened. So I don't know if it'll backfire. Remember, Oklahoma is a death penalty state.
Yeah, it is, and that's already come up at one of the hearings already. That they brought that up. Misty, what do you think will happen? I mean, do you think this is a death penalty case? Do you think the prosecution will go after
most
it?
definitely.
It definitely could be a death penalty case. You're talking about a double murder that was obviously premeditated and planned very, very specifically. So I think there's absolutely a chance prosecutors, that's an aggravating factor right there, the fact that you have two murders. So prosecutors do have the ability to go for it. And again, that's exactly the type of leverage from a defense perspective. You want to get the death penalty off the table. How do you do that? Well, you're the one to give information that goes to that head of the snake, that goes mind, and tell it all, spill everything, so that the case of that person is airtight. So the death penalty certainly is a factor, and in this case, it certainly could be applied.
All right. Certainly be applied. So was this a kid decision to confess, to then have it thrown out, attempt to have it thrown out, or then just say, they heard me complaining and then they decided to exact this crime against the two, Veronica and Jillian, because they saw how distraught I was and I was worried. What is the plan by the head of the snake? That's really what I wanted to put in the title. I think I might change that here in a second. But let's go to my community board. And power's jumping on and off. That's not good. It's a bit weird outside, so that might be why the power jumped on. Sorry about that. That's all we need. We don't need another power outage. Last time I went live pertaining to O.J. Simpson when he passed away, that night I went live and the power went out. That was O.J. telling me he didn't want me talking about him. All right, everybody. We're going to go to my community board. Now I'm offline. Great. Hold on one second, everybody. Let me try to go back in here because I wanted to read the polls because I asked you questions about this. Hold on. Great. Just my luck. Because it is very breezy outside. Messing with the Wi-Fi, I guess. Great, great, great. Hold on one second, everybody. See if I can connect. Well, 25 viewing. I don't see mine coming up. There we go. And then my air decides she wants to cut on. Now it says can't be reached. Well, she's having a little hard time there. Trying to connect. Want to go over to my community page so I can read the polls to you. Hope there's not going to be any thunderstorms. That's all we need. Thank you all so much for joining me. This is live number 2 pertaining to Ruby, Frankie, and the Oklahoma Misfits. For some reason it's not letting me connect. So I wanted to read it, see if I can bring you the results of the poll. It says I'm connected, but well, hold on, everybody. Finally getting some Wi-Fi. Oh my goodness. Too much. Now it's going back to retry. Oh Lord. Let's see. I'll go back to my home page. Let's see what's going on here. She's having... Well, it was just on there. Oh, mercy. Now it's going back off. This is weird. Here we go. Sorry about this, everybody. Trying to connect. See if Vinnie Politan's got a new video uploaded. Still won't do it for some reason. Anywho, I'll have to bring you that information a little later. The polls pertaining to Ruby, Frankie, and this information here. Wi-Fi is down, I guess. For some reason, it's not connecting. Anyway, was the judge a target by Oklahoma Misfits? On my poll, I asked you this question: why was the judge not harmed? They got arrested, changed their minds. You're not sure. What is your answer? Because is it a fact they unalived the two women? Then they decided to say, well, we'll get to him tomorrow, the next day. You understand what I'm saying? Because I believe that was going into the weekend that she was unalived. So were they planning to unalive the judge the next week? Wait until there was a day the judge was working on shift, walking home. This is specified in the affidavit information. Were they going to target the judge? Because you got to remember, they didn't get arrested immediately because the women were missing for a little while. So they still had time to kill the judge, unalive the judge, when you think about it. They had time. But then you got to ask yourself, when did law enforcement reach out to her about the disappearance of Jillian and Veronica? Day 1, day 2, day 3. And maybe when they got contact by law enforcement, they said, oh, we're not going to touch the judge, because now they're knocking at the door asking us, you know, when did we last talk to her? What did she say? What did I say? Can we see your phone? So on and so forth. And that may have halted the plan to unalive the judge. It's that law enforcement reached out to her, asking her about her dealings with Miss Veronica and the last time they conversated. But it's interesting it was mentioned. Is this an intricate plan to try to have it thrown out, her confession or whatever she's mentioned? Because as they said here in this commentary at News Nation, you don't know what she said by saying I took responsibility. Saying I'm responsible doesn't mean I said I unalived the person. I tortured them. I kidnapped them. I could just say, yes, I'm responsible. Yes, I knew about the plan. But I don't have to say that I did this, this, and this to the victims. So maybe she didn't say she did anything to the victims, just that she's responsible. What did she exactly say? Because later down the road, this may get thrown out or attempt to throw it out by her defense attorney. Well, you're gonna have to throw this out because she says she's innocent. So she might put the blame on these other people. Oh, they did all the work because they knew I wanted to get rid of this woman because I didn't want her having access to my grandchildren. Is this an intricate plan of her pleading not guilty? What did she exactly say to law officials about her role in the kidnapping and murders of Veronica and Jillian? Very interesting commentary. Coffin Daffer here believes, Miss Coffin Daffer, formerly the FBI, believes it's orchestrated, whatever she told law officials. Very interesting, very interesting. Maybe so. But once again, who all else is involved? How many other people had knowledge of the plan? Was the son, her biological son, who's the father of the children, is he a part of this as well? Because we have a 16-year-old belonging to the Twombleys who knew of the plan and states it was a plan put into motion months ago. She overheard conversations because they would come over to her parents' house talking about it, which is very disturbing to me. So if we have a child listening to conversations, that would lead me to believe that also Tiffany has discussed this plan to murder Veronica in front of other people. And the mother, her own mother, said she told Rick, the son, that, oh, everything's going to be okay. Sooner or later, we won't have to worry about Veronica. Now, ask yourself this. If the grandmother heard this, which is Tiffany's mother, you want me to believe that she didn't tell her exactly what she was going to do? Because as I said, she didn't mind going over to the Twombleys, talking about it, and the daughter is in ear hustling mode to hear of the nefarious crime. The daughter never went to authorities to say, hey, my parents are conspiring with this woman and her boyfriend to kill this lady, and a social worker or whomever gets in the way, or a judge. See, you got to ask that too. What all did that girl hear? What all did she tell her mother? What all did she tell somebody else? Who is this mystery guy, Mr. Grice? The daughter puts him there. The Twomey's daughter puts him there in the house meeting with them, and he knew fair well warning that a crime was about to commence. So you have to ask yourself, how many people did Tiffany tell about her plans to unalive this woman? Did the boyfriend tell other people? Did they try to hire other people? Are there other people with knowledge of the plan, number one? Number two, are there other people involved in the plan, in the kidnap, the torture, or did they torture her, the two women, or just cold-blooded shot them and then buried them? 10 feet deep, hay covered, hoping what? The cows will graze over the land. Allegedly, this man was renting this property from someone. It's very disturbing. And a week ago, it was thought that perhaps they would try to set this man up who owned the property, because how convenient. He owns the property. They could loop him in as well. Oh, he's involved too. He did it. He knew about it. Will we hear that he had knowledge? Because I believe he's spoken to the news, Mr. Enton, and he's portraying everybody as good and wholesome in the community. Don't blame the other people according to what these people have done. Well, so far we've got 4 people who have conspired to murder 2 people. So if we have 4, we might have 6, we might have 8. So when you speak of generalizations, telling people what they should and shouldn't do as far as judging people, think about what you're saying. This is, to me, the same BS with Lori Vallow and Ruby Frankie, Jodi Hildebrandt, Chad Daybell. There's more than just a 2. Say, well, each case has a 2. Daybell's had a 2. Ruby Frankie, Jodi Hildebrandt, 2. Tiffany and Mr. Whatever his name, Tad, whatever, that's 2. 2 plus more. Do you see the coincidence here? Coincidences? So where there's 2, there could be 4. Where there's 4, there could be 6, 8, 10. How many people are we talking about? We're talking about 4 in custody, a teenager, that's 5, a grandmother that knew something, that's 6. I won't doubt the son knew something. And just because he was in rehab, that means nothing to me, because the plan went into motion right after he was put into rehab, allegedly. And we don't have proof that he's actually there, but then somebody says on a Facebook account, yes, I called, blah, blah, blah. He's in custody, whatever. He still had time to conspire with his mother, because a child, the Twomey's child, says they were talking about it in February. So he wasn't in custody or rehab in February. So no matter what negative things he has said about his mother, it does not mean he didn't go along with the plan to get rid of her. Because if he feared his mother, pay attention. If he feared his mother, as he has put out, whoever people are getting this information, don't know if it's truth or not, why would you want this woman to have custody of your children? You mean to tell me you would prefer your mother, who's dangerous and violent, to keep your children versus them being in the custody of your ex-girlfriend, Veronica? Is there any proof that Veronica was not proficient in child rearing? Why did she not have custody? See, I ask all the questions because that's a missing link as well. Why did this woman, almost 30 years of age, did not have custody of her children? There are allegations of sexual improprieties against her brother as a suspect in touching the children. So then you gotta ask yourself, what did she know about that? Did he do it? Will he speak about what he did and did not do? Was he ever arrested? See, 1,000 questions. Was the brother arrested? Did he do jail time? Was there evidence, physical evidence on the children? Did the children speak out to say that they were touched, or there was evidence to show that the children were touched, penetrated? What are we talking about here? See, this rabbit hole goes real deep. And I knew that there was more to this story than what we really knew, because there always is. Because we have learned that in true crime, people hold other people's secrets. And that's obviously what you have here. So now we got to ask ourselves about the brother. Is he a known pedophile? Has he abused other children? Has he abused his own sister or other sisters, brothers, cousins? What? Been arrested, has a criminal record for improprieties against children, any type of cases involving pornography? I haven't heard anything. Is it a kept secret that he's a pedophile? What's his age? Is he older than Veronica? Younger than Veronica? Did they grow up together? Same mother, father? What? How many brothers and sisters do they have? any other improprieties, allegations against this said brother of other family members. Because if we hear that there are other people who have been abused or allegations, then we can say possibly he did abuse these children. Or is it just a case that the boyfriend, girlfriend fell out, they made up some shit about this brother touching the kids and it's not true? So what is the truth? Imagine a person is murdered on a lie. Because it's bad either way, whether the allegations are true or not. But just imagine these are lies against the brother. He didn't touch the kids, wasn't arrested, wasn't investigated. The children were taken for some other reason. Stay woke. Now a woman is dead and another woman is dead on false allegations. So what is the truth pertaining to the allegations? Are they truth or not? Then we have to say, flip side, still wrong to murder the woman and the social worker, even if the allegations are true. Let the judicial process handle it. But then some people will say, well, hell, if it's my kid, I would have offed him, not the mother. So now you got to ask yourself, what did Veronica know about the allegations? Did she know that her brother was a pedophile? Did she allow him to be around her children knowing he likes to touch children? See, you'll never know because the dead can't talk, and he definitely ain't going to tell the truth. So are these lies or not against the brother? What is the truth to the allegations? Will we find out the truth? Will the state tell us the truth? What's in their files? Was the judge targeted? Had they been following the judge? Had they sent any threatening letters to the judge? Did the judge fear for their safety in handling this case? The state dropped the ball in this case because the state didn't verify with Veronica why the initial social worker wasn't showing up. So the state of Kansas is liable for the deaths of these two women. And if I were the families, I would file a lawsuit against the state because rightfully so, they owe them every damn dime that a jury would award money. Because there's no way this woman should have been orchestrating social work business. And we hear that she was a bully. She, wanted to be a head knocker, or as Coffin Daffer says, the head of the snake. I love it. A snake she is. And she found 3 other snakes. How about that? But there's no way she should have been orchestrating Department of Human Services business. Calling the worker to say, oh, don't show up, blah, blah, blah. The worker should have verified with Veronica. Hey, I hear you're not coming, or you're this and that. And then she would have heard from Veronica, I don't know what you're talking about. I am coming to get the children, see the children. See what I'm saying? So this was a supervised visit, not an overnight stay, or I don't really understand what was going on between she and the children. So the worker was going along to do what exactly? She was just going to be with her to visit the children? Something about a birthday party, getting things for a birthday party. So where was she going to have the party, number one? Was the venue already set up? Stay woke. Had there been invitations sent out? I'm confused because that's the one thing I'm not hearing anything about is the actual birthday party. Was there a place rented out for the party? Were they going to have it at a restaurant? Who was invited? How many children were invited? See, everybody talks around stuff. What's the truth to the party? Because if she's having supervised visits, then that means she would not have had visits to keep her children in her custody. And to me, that's not good. So this is why I say you have to ask all the questions in a true crime case. Because in the end, it does not look good for Veronica that she didn't have her kids, number one. What was the reason to not have custody? How long has she been without custody? Did somebody testify against her that she didn't deserve custody? Are there also allegations against her that she was an unfit parent, besides the pedophilia allegations against her brother? So you have to ask all those questions. What is the truth in this case? But like I said, the dead tells no tales. So we have a worker that can't talk. We have a mother that can't talk. We have a father that's in rehab due to some firearm charges, which that don't make no sense to me why he'd be in rehab for that. But that's something I read on Facebook. Don't know if there's truth to any of that, because that's the whole point. You don't know what's the truth. You're listening to he said and she said, and somebody called a jail and all that on top of nonsense. I like to hear from the head of the snake, head knockers. And that would be law officials. That would be the Department of Human Services. Tell us what you have pertaining to why the woman didn't have custody. Allegations of sexual abuse, if they were founded, unfounded, if somebody was arrested, not arrested. Were you about to give this woman custody of her children? Now, some are saying they believe the judge was going to favor her. So this may be a motive of why these heathens wanted to unalive the judge. Is that true? Was the judge about to award this woman, Veronica Butler, custody of her children? I don't know. We will never know now because she's not alive, and I don't know if the judge will tell the truth that, yes, I was going to award her custody. Now, how does the judge feel knowing that they were a target on the hit list? Were they going to actually unalive this judge? Now imagine riding by daytime. You going to what? Kidnap the judge? Not thinking that people had doorbell cameras, depending on where the courthouse is located. Is it in a neighborhood where there are houses across the street beside it? What? You thought you were going to be able to just do what to the judge? Walk up, ask the judge, hey, do you need a ride? I'll give you a ride. I'm going in your direction. Everybody knows, everybody says, hell, maybe the judge would have hopped in the damn car with them. This is baffling. But this goes to show you that you don't know people, and I say this all the time pertaining to true crime. All you have is a perception of a person. And all a person is worth is his or her words. And that don't really mean a damn thing because people lie. People will aid people in foolishness, mischief, fraud, sexual abuse, crimes. And as we have seen, people will aid people in murder. And that's what you have here with 4 heathens. We also have a daughter who knew of the plot and never told anybody. Some people could say she's also a suspect because she had knowledge and she was of an age where she knew better and she should have called 911 or went and told a teacher or somebody, hey, my parents are plotting the death of a woman with my parents. I don't feel safe at this house. And you always have to remember, people will kill in order to hold the secret, keep the secret, so you will become collateral damage. Now, before my commentary, I said, I can't see them offing everybody in Kansas and Oklahoma just because they wanted to speak to the news. And I did find it strange that nobody on the news would speak. Naturally, they were told not to by law officials because maybe they knew day one she was involved in the disappearance of the 2 women, Miss Tiffany. And then it led to finding out of the other co-conspirators. But I still found it strange that nobody would speak because the first thing I said is, well, am I supposed to believe that everybody that knew Veronica knew of this custody battle? Knew that this woman was allegedly dangerous, knew that she threatened her, allegedly threatened her. Miss Tiffany, did you threaten her? Did any of your other family members threaten her? Your son Rick, did he threaten her? I'm curious. Does she have any type of text messages on her phone or recordings that you all threatened her? And when you threatened her, what did you say to her exactly? I'm going to KILLU. You better drop this suit, this custody battle. You know you're unfit. You know what your brother did, blah, 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 blah. What was said to Miss Veronica? And did Veronica tell somebody else of the threats? Was there anything strange happening around her home? See, now you got to go on the belly of the beast with it. Strange cars riding by, parking on the street. Did they ever go over to Kansas and look and stop? Try to unalive her there. At her job, riding by the store, in the town where she worked. Where we get information that a car or a truck owned by them frequent the area was seen on CCTV footage. See, it goes on and on and on. Now, social worker lives in the same town. Will we find out somebody was stalking her, watching her, sending her threatening letters, interesting information to her that would make her think, okay, what's going on here? Will we find out they were stalking the social worker? I don't know. Because I don't know the time frame of when she stepped in to be the alternate. Because I don't know, is this a day apart? When she calls the first worker to say, hey, I don't need you. And obviously that worker never verified anything with Miss Butler. So now I need a time frame of when the second person stepped in to go alone. And only 3 miles away from where the car was found to the location where they were allegedly supposed to meet. Now, my understanding they're supposed to meet at that desolate gas station. So that means they did what I said I thought would be crazy. Stopping them on an open road and luring them somewhere else, not thinking that nobody would see them, especially if you're getting out with a weapon. A pistol, a gun, a rifle. So what was it? A gun, small gun, rifle? Because if you block the road, how would you be able to block a road and it's an open highway? Please explain it to me because I'm confused. That's the one thing I was confused about. And I mentioned that in one of my last videos. If it's an open highway, 2-lane highway, that they're traveling down to go meet these people, if allegedly the car was found 3 miles from where they were supposed to meet, then I'm assuming where the car was is where they intercepted them. Or is that not true? They were intercepted somewhere, taken with whomever, and then the car was drove somewhere, dumped, and then somebody backtracked behind them and picked them up. I'm confused at that. Because you got to make it make sense. If you're blocking the road, how did it work to where the ladies got out of the car, or you came up with rifles, guns, and made them get out of the car, threatened to shoot the window? I wouldn't have gotten out of the car. This is the one thing that I don't understand about this story. If they were blocking the road, and I drove up and saw the car was catty-cornered, which I can't understand how anybody would risk doing this on a 2-lane highway without thinking the sheriff or the state trooper could come through, or other people coming through. And you know people have road rage these days. This is baffling to me. But as you see that barren area, there's nothing coming or going, but it's still risque because it's broad daylight. Make it make sense. Make it make sense how they blocked an open road to lure these women and block a road. I don't understand it. So I wonder if she called her and said, change of plans. Don't meet me at the gas station, meet me over this road. So maybe it was a road that turned off of the highway, and that's where the co-conspirators, the Twombly, sat, and they couldn't get through, and then they proceeded to go over to the car and get them out of the car, and or maybe came up behind them, pushed them off the road. I don't know, because I don't really understand this blocking of a road. I think she called them and told them to turn off another road that would be off the highway where people could see. That would make more sense to me, because you wouldn't want an eyewitness. And like I said, all of that area is barren anyway, whether it's open highway or not. But it would be easier to lure you to a side road or some type of structure or building, and then I have these people waiting there, and when you pull into that road, they've got it blocked, and then they jump out, and then the rest is history. Make you get out of that car, put you in the whatever they put them in, trailer, whatever. Looks like a horse trailer, a long horse trailer that was towed away by the FBI. So what they put in that long trailer? Naturally, nobody would think their body's in there. This is a farming area, farming community. You would just think, oh, it's got something to do with animals or hay or whatever. See, that's the thing about life. When you're riding around, passing people on the interstate and streets, you have no idea what's in their car, their van, their SUVs. You don't know that there's somebody lying down in the seat, in the floorboards, in the back compartment, possibly knocked out, shot, stabbed, bleeding to death, wishing somebody would stop, pull the car over, wishing they could get up and put their hands in the window, finger up to show that they're in distress. This is a very baffling and bizarre story. But we have learned with true crime, it happens every day. People being lured, kidnapped, tortured, and unalived, and also discarded. And you have to think about the poor people who are out here meeting people, crossing their paths of demons, and nobody is coming to look for them. Nobody is calling the news, sheriff's office, police department to say, my mom is missing, my sister is missing, my friend, my neighbor, I haven't heard from them. You know what you hear? Oh, I haven't seen them post anything to Facebook lately. Luckily, this woman was married and she had somebody to go out looking for her and then call the police. But imagine had Veronica had no one to say she was missing. Same thing with Miss Jillian. She was caught cross in the crossfire of this debacle, all because she was doing her job. She has nothing to do with the case, just that she was an alternate worker. But that's her job. She's a social worker. So why should she be dead? Because she was in the way. And obviously they felt like Miss Tiffany, well, she's a part of the plan to take the children from me. But what's interesting is she didn't think the same of the other worker. So now we'd have to wonder if she told the other worker of her plan. Maybe this is some sick type of misfit cult out there, because you have to weigh everything that's been said in the affidavit. How is one worker better than the other one to say who deserved to live or not, Miss Tiffany? Help me understand. You say this woman here was a part of the plan for you not to be able to keep the children, but then the other worker who was supposed to go on this field trip with her or something, I don't understand any of this. This makes no sense. How this woman will have access to call this Department of Human Services and lie to the worker who is supposed to be on the visit, which that means that person would have to be coming from Kansas, would it not? Now listen to me carefully. Jillian would be working with the Kansas Department of Human Services because she obviously met with her, Veronica, to go on the trip. Stay woke now. And they said they're from the same town. So if the worker is from the same town, wouldn't the original worker be from the same town? So are you following me? So how is it that worker one wouldn't be a part of the plan to not let you get custody versus this worker who don't know you from a can of paint? How do you differentiate the two? I really didn't sit and just chop it up, but this is baffling to me. Both women should have been coming out of the same agency, correct? Correct. Because I can't see a worker from Oklahoma driving all the way to Kansas to meet Veronica and then jump in her car to then backtrack to Oklahoma to see the children. So I would assume if a worker came from Kansas, Veronica's from Kansas, stay woke, then the first social worker is also from Kansas. So how did you differentiate who was a part of this plan that was right and who was wrong, Miss Tiffany? Help me understand. What are you trying to say to us? That the first worker, you came to like her, she sided with you, she felt like you deserved the children, she listened to you rant and moan, and you felt like she was in your pocket. Is that where we're going with this? That the worker that you told not to show up was in your pocket. So now we got to ask, did you make up stuff in conversations with her, pay her? She has some personal dealings with you and your family? Because we hear that the states border each other. I also see on Facebook that Rick has lived in Kansas. So maybe all of you had some type of crossing of the states and dealing with people in nearby towns or whatever. I don't know. Are we going to find out this worker is not above board? See, I asked all the questions because I knew there was more to the story. And of course, people gossiping about the grandmother and the custody issues and blah, blah, blah. But like I always tell people, it's always deeper than just the custody. Perhaps there has been a feud brewing for some time between all parties, the mother, the boyfriend, and this grandmother. Maybe threats have been made toward Veronica, her family, whomever. Who's to say they had been over there in Kansas bothering people, bothering the workers? See, you don't know. We don't know how deep this hole goes, this rabbit's hole. But it will be very shocking if we find out the social worker who didn't go on this trip was in the pocket of Tiffany Adams. Checkmate. That they knew of each other, had dealings with each other outside of business, outside of work, which is unethical. She had been in her ear telling her dirty things about Veronica. He said, she said gossip, whether truth or not. And that worker had sided with Tiffany. So that's why she never went and verified Tiffany went to her to say, oh, I'm not coming, I'm not going, this, that, and the other, somebody's going to replace. See, none of that makes any sense to me. So now we have what? The worker saying, oh, I didn't hear nothing until afterwards, after the other worker went in my place. But if you're working the case, something's off here. Now I just sit here and think about it. Something is off. Tiffany tells you, you don't have to come for the next couple of weeks. Now, when I asked her why, so what answer did she give? Oh, the mother, she's not going to be coming to visit. She's got other things to do. We're going to wait. Okay, so let's say she's told her that. It seems to me the social worker would have then went and called Veronica to verify what Tiffany had said. Because the one thing that doesn't make sense in this story is how that the second worker get the order to go. Oh, I think I'm on to something. Yeah, I think I'm on to something. Because this doesn't make any sense. See, sometimes you have to think things out to make it make sense. And this ain't adding up. You call the social worker to say, I won't be needing you for a couple of weeks. If there's a court order for the children to see their mother, you would be in a position to delegate not being accessible or speaking on behalf of Veronica. That's some bullshit here. Oh, yes. I have to really now just sit here and think it out. You're not in any position to delegate because it's a court order. Stay woke, everybody. So how is Tiffany delegating when she's not in a position to? It would be up to Veronica to say, I won't be able to make it. We will have to postpone the visit. So let's say the court set a visit for Friday evening to go. Veronica couldn't make it. It would be up to her to say to the worker, I can't make that visit. I need to reschedule. Number two, if Tiffany said she couldn't make it to bring the children to meet her, then I think she'd have to have a damn good excuse why she could not. I hope everyone's following me because I smell bullshit. So then a supervisor would have to say to Tiffany or a worker, well, why can't you make it? Then what reason would you give? You'd have to give a reason of, one, the child is sick, been to the doctor, got a doctor's excuse, or you're sick and got a doctor's excuse. Checkmate. So I'm going to say it again. How did Tiffany call the worker that would have been on the Kansas side to say she won't be needing her to ride on the visits when she should have had no delegation because she's a respondent in the case to meet up with the mother? The decision should have never been up to Tiffany because she's the one who has custody of the children, you see. It should have been up to a worker and or supervisor to say who, where, when, how. Not Tiffany. That's something that bothered me when I first heard this. I said, this doesn't make any sense to me. She should not have been the one that's delegating. This is why you have to pay attention to the information. There's some hanky-panky going on here with Tiffany and the social worker. That's obvious. The state's neighbor, I think everybody has gone back and forth through these states, living, visiting, shopping, whatever, and I smell a rat. Because there's no way the original worker would say after the fact of the visit, I didn't know anything about Tiffany not wanting me to come in, or I didn't know Veronica wasn't going or coming. Because I did hear there was one visit that Veronica canceled. So that's what I'm trying to say. Tiffany shouldn't have been in any predicament to delegate. So somebody has to take responsibility for why the worker did not go on the trip with Veronica. And somebody has to do some damn explaining, like ASAP, because this is not adding up. And I'm really befuddled sitting here right now discussing this. Because I got a feeling the worker is in favor with Tiffany. That's the only way you're going to make this make any sense. So I'm going to spin it like this, and then I'm going to check out of here. Was she playing on her sympathy? Worker number one, Tiffany. Did the worker bow out and say she couldn't go? Bingo card. So then another worker had to step in and take her place. Hot damn. Always pay attention to the details. Everything you need to know is at the beginning of the story, not the middle, not the end. Did the worker become friends with Tiffany? Since everyone is talking about her brash attitude, she had pool in the town, they were well off, she and the boyfriend. Will we find out that she had been also canoodling with the social worker? Because it has to make sense. And there's something in this story that stinks besides the deaths of these two women. And there's no way Tiffany should have been able to delegate the comings and the goings of Veronica or herself. Somebody would have to have a good enough excuse why they could not, one, meet up with the other one. So how could Tiffany tell a state worker, you take off for a couple of weeks, I won't be needing you? And she couldn't speak for Veronica because that wouldn't be right. They would need to verify it with Veronica. Think about it. Who's going to call and verify that you can't come to a custodial meeting? Because the first thing they'll say is, well, you know you can't do that. That's not your right to call and tell me Veronica can't come. I have to call her and verify with her why she can't come. Stay woke. The worker has to be in on it as well. There's something not right. I'm dwelling on this because I knew something wasn't right with that statement. I won't be needing you for a couple of weeks. Okay, why not? Well, then if the worker wasn't needed for the supervised visits, stay with me, everybody. Because here, I'm getting ready to bring you a bang. If the worker wasn't needed, then how the fuck did another worker show up with Veronica to go get killed? Did you say something? This is way deeper than the unaliving of a woman and a social worker and an allegation of sexual abuse, custody dispute. This shit is deep. Because Tiffany had no grounds to navigate visitation either on her behalf or on behalf of Veronica. And if she told the worker that she wouldn't be needed, the worker was supposed to ask her why not. Are you not going to comply with the order? What's the problem? Are you sick? Car broke down? Children sick? And then she's supposed to respond. So what reason did she give the worker to say, I won't be needing you? Because it really doesn't make any sense. Because the worker is supposed to be the one riding with Veronica to go for the supervised visits. So stay woke. There should not really be any correspondence between her and the worker. The correspondence should be between Veronica and the worker. Hot damn. Pay attention. You're on the other side. You're the giver of the kids, and you're in Oklahoma. Why would you be talking to the worker in Kansas? Like I said, the only time you should be calling a worker is to say you can't meet the mother. You're sick, children sick, house on fire, burnt down, you in the hospital. Understand? So I want to ask the worker, were you in the pocket of Tiffany Adams? Because help me understand how you were able to get yourself out of being on the visit and the ride with Veronica. This makes no sense to me. And I'm really perturbed right now thinking about it, that you're in her pocket. You were in her pocket. She paid you. You were listening to her lies. It's something. Because you should have been able to go speak to Veronica to verify if Veronica was going on the visit, changed her mind, whatever. And if you had talked to Veronica, you would have already known Veronica had not postponed. So then you were supposed to then double back to Tiffany to say, what you told me is not the truth. So what the hell's going on here? Are you trying to do some hanky-panky? Are you trying to get this woman messed up so she won't be able to see her children? That's exactly what this sounds like. The worker, you were in cahoots with her. You had to be. Because there's nothing logically that somebody could explain to me right now why you were not on that trip with Veronica. The only way you could have gotten out that trip would be that you called in sick. You had an appointment. You were off from work. And then the next person stepped in line to go on the trip with Veronica. So why are we hearing that Tiffany is the orchestrator of calling you to say she won't be needing you? She has no right to be calling you to say she won't be needing you because you are not riding with her. You were supposed to be riding with Veronica. So help me understand why Tiffany will be calling you to say that. And she's the one with the children. Oh yeah, there's bullshit here. The state is liable. And somebody needs to investigate this social worker. And that's my public opinion. Until somebody can bring a sensible reason why worker number one did not go on this trip. Because it's not adding up. Because what it's looking like, Tiffany has orchestrated this crime against these two women. And she's also, Elizabeth was putting a hit out on the judge. So that means she had to also possibly get into favor in the DHS office. And that is where worker number one comes in. So somebody is lying here. And who is it? That's my commentary pertaining to the Oklahoma Misfits all four in custody, the Twombies. Allegedly, Cora did not have an attorney. Don't know if she's found one or gotten the money. I find it strange that her husband wouldn't hire an attorney for her. That's bizarre. But Tiffany and her boyfriend have attorneys. Allegedly, Cora was shaking her head no in court. No to what? No to your role. And obviously, Tiffany is giving commentary that she's responsible for the deaths of these two women. What did she say exactly? I did it, I killed them, I planned it. Or is she going to flip and turn on the others and say, well, they just knew I wanted the woman gone. And the worker was collateral damage. She was in the way. But I did not kill her. I did not torture her. I did not bury her. What is her exact words? And the gist of the story, she's pled not guilty. Now, how are you going to plead not guilty, but in the same breath say you're responsible? Stay woke, everybody. Will this be a twist later that she will not say she killed the people, but that these three did it on her behalf? And that they bought the burner phones and plotted out the meetup without her consent, without her knowledge, and she found out afterwards. Is that where we're taking this, Tiffany? Because they're saying she gave information during custody, if we're to interpret this information correctly. But will this be a flip later? I'm pleading not guilty because, yeah, I didn't like the woman. I didn't want her to have children, but I didn't buy the burner phones. I didn't plot this. I didn't tell them to go out there and meet her. I didn't tell them to do anything to her. I didn't tell them to kill her. I found out afterwards. They came back and they told me, hey, we did you a favor. We got rid of that lady and the social worker. Is that where we're taking this, Tiffany? And I want to know if the son is involved and if he had knowledge that they were going to kill Veronica Butler. And any worker going. See, there's something going on with the worker business. She liked the worker for some reason, because I believe she had that worker in her pocket and the worker was siding with her. That's why the worker didn't show up. I got a feeling the worker didn't show up because she knew about the plan. She had to. Because what are the odds that she didn't go? And it's not to say a worker couldn't have been sick or hurt, but allegedly it's starting with Tiffany doing the talking and the navigating. I won't be needing you. So if you didn't know any better, you would think, as I just said, they were in cahoots together. Make it make sense. Is the worker involved as well? Because what did I tell you about secrets? People hold other people's secrets. People aid other people in foolishness, fraud, theft, and murder. And what's baffling, you've got more than 4 that have guilty knowledge of this crime. I got a feeling the son knew, her mother knew, the grandmother, a 16-year-old child knew, and possibly this social worker knew. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But you explain to the queen why that social worker didn't show up. And later says, I had no knowledge that another worker went with Veronica. The only way you would know is as what I just said. Somebody switched you out without your knowledge, or you gave an excuse not to go that day. But you're not gonna make me believe Tiffany had pulled in that damn DHS office in a whole nother state. Because if so, that would lead me to believe perhaps she was in somebody's ear, pocket, and that would be very dangerous to tell a fucking state worker, you're gonna kill the mother. So you don't show up. Get somebody else to work that day. Is that what we're saying here? Lord have mercy. Frankie is suing Jodi Hildebrandt for emotional distress. And as I said earlier in my commentary, he doesn't deserve one damn dime because he willingly left his family. He willingly let Jodi come into his home and disrupt his home. That was his choice. He stayed away from his wife and children for a whole year, didn't check on them, didn't call, didn't video Skype, nothing. That's a choice. And he doesn't deserve one red penny. The children in the state care, so there's no way a jury would award him money, because what they're going to say is, well, your children are being taken care of by the state. Why would we give you money when you willingly walked away? You didn't file for divorce. You didn't make an effort to try to get back into the house with your family. Why would we give you money? And why are we going to give you money on the abuse of your children? When one, you left them, you were not there, you didn't care, and you probably would have stayed gone if this crime had never taken place, or that boy had escaped out of that damn house. Or the worst case scenario, the children were murdered and then hidden, discarded. You would have still been living on your own, thinking your children were alive and safe. So why would we award you money on your decision to vacate the premises? Nobody talked you into leaving. Nobody forced you out of that house. You're paying the mortgage, assumingly. So why would we give you money for damages, for emotional distress from Jodi Hildebrandt? This man is bold, he's ignorant, and he is just as vile as Jodi and Ruby, in my opinion. And the one thing everyone needs to remember about Kevin Frankie is that he was there with Ruby when allegations were brought against the two for child abuse before they ever met Jodi. Remember that. And she stopped doing YouTube videos because her watchers filed a complaint against her and signed a petition and called CPS. Nothing was done, nothing was founded, and then you fast forward years later, we got tortured children. So somebody saw something in the YouTube videos. So there was some truth all along. And this happens all the time in CPS complaints. There is truth, but the children remain in the custody of the abuser. So I say to you, why does he deserve money when he left his family? That was his choice. He does not deserve one dime from the state of Utah or from Jodi's estate. If somebody else wants to sue the estate on behalf of the children, then fine. Another relative, grandparent, a brother, sister, or the state itself. But Mr. Kevin Franke, you don't deserve any money on behalf of your children, because one, you don't have the children. They're in the state's care, and you left your kids with Ruby, knowing how Ruby was, and knowing you were the same parent that thought it was okay to let your older boy child sleep on a beanbag for 7 months. To me, that's abuse. Because you know that's not comfortable for a child to sleep on that. It's a difference if that's all you had. The baby didn't have a bed, the boy didn't have a bed, you can afford a bed for your son, he slept on a beanbag, that would be different. But that's not the case. You all had a nice life, cushy life, you're college educated, you all had a nice home, you had no right to take a bed away from a boy child, growing child. So if you are willing to do that, you're willing to do other things against your children, and you left that house listening to Jodi Hildebrandt, you allowed her to come move in your house, that is your fucking choice. And you don't deserve a damn dime. So the best thing you need to do is suck up whatever money that your wife left behind and keep it moving. And I don't agree with your son living with you, but he's grown. That's his choice. The boy has been on a public platform playing video games, expressing he didn't believe, what his mother did at first. He's in denial, which I find strange. He also found her apology in court strange. Felt like she was thanking the Oscars. So right there, you can see the boys. I don't think he's really understanding what was done, because he's seen his mother be abusive. Maybe not to that extent of what was done to the younger children. Him finding her apology strange, but then also says he believes the apology was sincere. All that's contradictory. I think the boy child is confused. This is why I don't think he should be living with Kevin Franke. Now, what is the relationship between his older sister and Mr. Franke? I don't know. But the other sisters have spoken out, the Franke sisters, and they have giving their opinion that they tried to call CPS and the police about her behavior with the child. So then you got to ask yourself, did you also loop Mr. Kevin into that? Or was he with her at the time when she was spewing this connections nonsense? I don't know. But I believe they were mentally abusive to their children when they were together. And it escalated when Jodi came into the picture. And I do believe there was going to be a worst case scenario. And had the children continued not to get food and water and abuse and have open wounds, they were going to succumb to those wounds. And I do believe they would have hid the bodies and nobody would have known until somebody kept banging, 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 saying, hey, where are the children? And they would have went into an investigation similar to what happened with Lloyd Vallow and Chad. And they would have never gave up the goods. If so, it would have been Ruby. Oh, yeah, the children are buried over here. Jodi made me do it. And she eagerly blames Jodi just like Kevin Frankie, which is baffling to me. You allow somebody to abuse your children and you did it right along with Jodi, Ruby. So for you to sit up and act like it was all Jodi, you're full of shit. You rode that donkey ride. You found somebody that was eerily similar to you in the mindset, spewing stupid Bible verses and using the Bible as an excuse to say that these children were demonic. You're no different than Lloyd Vallow Daybell, Chad Daybell, and any of these other crackpots out here that abuse children. You're just another Bible thumper using biblical scriptures, religious scriptures to exact harm. And you won't be the first, and you will not be the last. And I do not believe you are remorseful. I believe you said what you need to say because you had been caught and had been tried by a jury of your peers. That's what I think. Jodi doesn't have any remorse. It's obvious from her court appearance and how she acted and talked on her jailhouse calls. You both are the same. That's the reason why you two hooked up. And that's why it was easy for both of you to abuse your own children. And Jodi has history with abusing her own niece and nephew. So she's not out the clear. Allegedly, she's somebody's mother. What do those children have to say about Jodi and her child rearing skills? Probably not good. Also has a husband, they say. Haven't heard what he has to say much. You two found each other because you're alike. And you see this all the time with cruel people. They attract what they are. And they say that about people in general. You attract what you are. But some of us aren't going to believe that we are out here attracting crazy people who want to harm us. If we're not out here harming other people, that we're saying to ourselves, well, I'm not abusive, I'm not violent. Why should I accept that I attracted this fool in my life? But there comes a point when you know, as I said, you are riding with the devil and you have to get your ass off that damn horse. Get off that donkey ride and free yourself. Because if you continue to ride that donkey ride into the abyss, you may get down in there and you can't get your ass out of there. And then you are considered a co-conspirator by law. And now you're facing charges for whatever they have done. And they loop your ass into it or you went willingly. However, this is a lesson learned, I'm telling you. You see something that's not right with a person, run like hell. Abuse, mental, physical, sexual, run like hell and call 911. If you can record it, get it in text, then you do what you need to do. But don't be a party to it. Because nobody is worth going down the abyss and going to prison for. Jodi didn't have to live like this, nor did Ruby, and nor did Kevin. They are all grown, thinking adults, and all of them could have bailed out at any time dealing with the other party, but they chose not to. Everybody played a role, and now they're all suffering the consequences. And that's what's going on with Kevin. He feels guilty that he allowed this woman to come in his life, his house, and he didn't put his foot down. That is his choice. And that's the thing about life. You can't go back. Where's the redemption in this? Some will say, well, I forgive him. He made a mistake, blah, blah, blah. Well, he doesn't have any right to try to get money. He tried to sue Jodi for what? You allowed her in your space. She didn't just run up in your house and move in. You allowed her in there, you and Ruby. She abused your kids because your wife allowed her. And frankly, you allowed her to do that as well because you left your family and that was your choice. So you're suing her for what exactly? For your stupid choice that you decided to put your tail between your legs and not be a man, holding penis and testicles tucked between your legs like a woman. That was your choice. What is the relationship between the daughter and Mr. Frankie? I don't know. Older son lives with him. I don't know why. Because as I said before, if he failed you once, he'll fail you twice. That's my personal opinion. Is Kevin remorseful for abandoning his family? Maybe he is, but I could care less because I don't trust him. Because when his children needed him the most, he bailed out. And he assumed they were okay. And that is not okay. Because out of sight is out of mind. And at some point, when you start talking to people and dealing with them, whether they're your family, your children, you can easily just keep it moving and go on and never speak to them again and worry about what the hell's going on with them. And I feel like that's exactly what he did, because there was no reason for him to be living on this earth or living in the same state or living in the same town and never once checked on his damn children, never checked on his wife, never called to say, hey, I miss you, I love you, I want to work it out, I want to come back home. You should have never left. And that's my opinion. Please go to my community page to take the post pertaining to the Oklahoma Misfits and the Ruby Frankie case and Kevin Frankie. Power went out briefly, so I wasn't able to log on to my community page to read you the results. But please take those polls and I will read them in the next live stream. Like, share, subscribe, drop your comments below. And thank you for tuning in to live number 2. Last live, NBA YoungBoy. He's in custody on gun charges and prescription drug fraud out in Utah. Go figure. Judge in Louisiana wants him to come on back. We will see what happens in that case. Right now, no bail, Utah custody for prescription drug charges. And also, he already had a pending charge pertaining to firearms. And he has been in trouble with the law for years. He has 11 children, allegedly 10 baby mamas or 9 baby mamas. A lot of drama with a young man of 24 years of age. Hopefully he will get his life together, because what is going to be sad is that his children will be growing up without a father figure. He's also stated that he's not invested in being a parent or playing the parent role. Why? I don't know. So that means he needs to stop screwing without a condom or keep his legs closed. Take your pick. And the women, you all need to do the same, because you are equally guilty to be allowing yourself to get wrapped up with a man who doesn't want to be a father. He doesn't want to be faithful. And then now he's got all these children and different baby mamas. 11 kids at 24. That is ridiculous. And now he's going to end up facing time in prison for said charges of fraud, prescription drug fraud, and firearms charges. His choice. His choice. TikTok. U.S. is trying to ban TikTok in the United States. The House of Representatives have passed the bill. Will the Senate? Will the Chinese company sell TikTok as so they can, hey, I don't know. Because once they sell the company, they're out. But then we have to ask ourselves, who will buy the company? Because if it's still another Chinese company, America will say hell to the no. Have they been spying on us through TikTok or any other ways? Does the American government have a legitimate claim to ban TikTok in the United States? Please take my poll, and I will be back with more content and breaking news. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $, Angie, 129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are always welcome during the live stream. Thank you so much for your time. You have been listening to live number 2. I got to check out of here. Thank you for your time, everybody. This is the Vault XL. Thank you.